Okay. All right, folks. We today do chapter 11. Chapter 11, in one word, is Russia. Russia, not the country. Russia, we translate it as wicked. I have a whole different definition of what it means, wicked. Very different. Last chapter, tzaddik, about the righteous. A righteous individual, complete mastery, not only over their behavior, but a complete righteous person has mastery of the inner workings of all of the recesses, deep recesses of the heart and the mind are completely attuned and one with the divine soul, and there is no animal soul. The animal soul has completely been conquered, subjugated in such a way that it too loves God. It too is now a part of the divine reality. And as a result, being totally conquered, a complete righteous individual. An incomplete righteous individual is someone who didn't conquer entirely. There's some vestiges, not in behavior of any negativity, of any evil, but in the depths of the heart, there can be some form of evil. And what does evil mean? That which is not unto God. That which is the vitality is klipa, is not from holiness, is self-oriented, is the form of a vitality that makes it therefore evil, because it is not subjugated to kedusha, to holiness, to godliness. So what is the antithesis of a righteous individual? Is a wicked individual. And just like in the righteous, we have two levels of complete and incomplete. So likewise, we have in the Russia, I'm not going to call it a wicked person because it really rings not well with what our concept of wickedness is. So we're just going to call it a Russia. Complete Russia and incomplete Russia. The Alter Rebbe begins with an incomplete Russia. Incomplete Russia means by definition the antithesis of the righteous. The righteous who has complete mastery over the animal soul. The antithesis of that is an incomplete Russia, is someone who doesn't have mastery, who the animal soul has some form of mastery over them. The Alter Rebbe begins with a very meek level of mastery of the animal soul over the individual. That would be an individual, by way of example, that can be very minor things that they do, like only on occasion they will be subservient to their animal soul, meaning on occasion they will say something that's not appropriate, that might be bordering on lashon hara, on slander, might not even slander itself, but bordering on slander. Or they may have thoughts that are sinful thoughts from time to time, not constantly. That, in other words, cogitated, meditated thought that they will think or act in something that is a maybe minor transgression, a small thing, but yet from time to time the animal soul will prevail over them, over their godly soul, and they will act based on that and do something that is a minor thing. Like wasting time sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes wasting time. Well, this person is a very, in our standards, we would consider quite refined. Wasting time only sometimes, only once a week you waste time. But that means the wasting of time is there. You are not a righteous person. The antithesis of the righteous is someone who doesn't have complete mastery over themselves, and that the animal soul prevails over them and allows that there should be an expression of the animal soul in thought, speech, and action that is negative, that is evil. Ultimately, that's what's called evil. And that person, of course, is going to feel, remorse for what they did and do tshuva and so on. And so, but that's a very high level Russia, meaning that only sometimes they do something wrong. not on a daily basis wasting time, not on a daily basis speaking, things that might be bordering on lashon hara, on speaking negative and then thinking negative thoughts and so on. But as the Alter Rebbe says, there's myriads of levels, many levels. So you can have a level of an individual who's a little more engaged in that. In other words, when they do something wrong, they're completely engaged, not just maybe they're what they say or what they think, but their thought, speech, and action is completely engaged in doing something that is more of a heinous sin, like they're feeling an anger towards another individual, so they're thinking bad about that person and they're speaking negatively and maybe even doing actions. But yet, this is a person who isn't completely consumed in it. And what does it mean not completely consumed? Is that they have regret afterwards. And this is the key. The Rasha that's not completely Rasha, completely a negative evil, is a person that will do wrong, and again, might be only intermittently, and it might be only in one garment of self-expression, or it might be even much more than that, right? And more often, and more, heinous sins. But yet, the key over here is they have regret. They feel bad at what they did, and therefore they do tshuva. The tshuva doesn't last. The repentance doesn't last. Why? Because the negative soul, the animal soul, is that powerful that always trips them up, and that's what defines them as a rasha, right? So they have a contrite heart. They do tshuva, they do penitence, but the evil still remains in the soul, and that's what the point over here. Evil person means that there's evil in the soul that is controlling us from time to time, even if it's only once a week, or once a day, or once an hour, right? Yet we are not able to prevail over it. That's the key over here. And but we own it. We own it. We have regret, and we try to fix it, but we're not capable of totally fixing it and making good on it, and therefore we relapse. That's still called a rasha. Why? Because rasha means over there's a stain on the soul. Rasha doesn't mean you're really devoted to serving God, totally devoted to serving God, but you're human and you relapse. And that relapse means that the animal soul prevails. The fact that the animal soul prevails means that that's the antithesis of a righteous person who it doesn't. And that's a rasha that's not completely a rasha. What is a complete rasha? Is someone not only does evil, does wrong, right? And it's not even so much how often they do it, but it's that they don't own it. They don't have regret. They also have a self-justification for their behavior. I'm sure we act that way sometimes, and we probably know people who do that very often. Almost everything, they have an excuse for their behavior. Well, if you wouldn't have acted the way you did, I wouldn't have said what I said. If you, well, what do you want? Always an excuse rather than ownership. There's no contrite heart. The fact that there isn't a contrite heart, and coming from a sense of ownership, then that makes a person a complete rasha. A complete rasha, right? Because they don't feel the need to fix. They don't feel the need to do tshuva, to do penitence, to own what is theirs. What can we say? That's really obviously not a good thing. Now, even in that person, right, there's still good there. They still have a godly soul. That godly soul is not penetrating and getting through. It's so covered over that it doesn't allow them to own their stuff and to fix whatever they need to fix. It doesn't allow them to do that. So the Alter Rebbe says that most people are actually a incomplete tzaddik, incomplete rasha, meaning they're not completely encompassed with their negativity, with their evil. And again, the evil meaning that they're out of control. And out of control means, out of control doesn't mean you're always angry, by the way. That doesn't mean you're always angry. You're always, being a hedonist. Out of control means that you're allowing your godly soul, your self-directed soul, to be completely in control. And since it's in control and it's your reality, then there's never anything to own and to try to better. But when you're attuned to your godly soul, and yet your godly soul is not strong enough to overcome the animal soul at all times, it fails at times. So that means there's a stain on the soul, and you feel bad about it. And you have a contrite heart, and you work on it, and you try to fix it. And little by little, you get better. But yet, there's still a stain on the soul, and because of that, that's called a rasha. Rasha isn't because you're Attila the Hun and you did horrific, terrible things. It just means that the animal soul is got some kind of control. So as we said, there's various levels. It could be only from time to time. It could be constantly. And when it's constantly, then usually such an individual will not take ownership for that's for themselves, and will not be contrite of heart, and therefore will not try to fix things and to become closer to God. Now, that's the chapter 11. I suggest that all of us are ultimately in this level. Hopefully we're just on the level of the evil, the rasha that's not complete, and that we are not completely in the clutches of the animal soul, and therefore that becomes our reality, our truth, and therefore there's nothing to own, as opposed to the incomplete rasha, who recognizes that there is a higher divine purpose that I need to fulfill. I need to live with my divine soul. And even though it's not completely giving me the control over the animal soul, or I haven't given it, rather, and therefore that leads to constant regret for things. And that's probably where we're at. Hopefully that we're there, and not too often on the other level of a complete rasha. That's it, folks. Marilyn, thank you. One kin away. All right, folks. Who else is joining us? Jonathan from Baton Rouge. Eleanor from Estonia. Welcome. Linda from New York. Kay from Finland. Marla and Nilza from Texas. And he's from New York. Oshi from Germany. Golda from Massachusetts. Daniel from Bogota. Tony from Costa Rica. Chaya from Amsterdam. Maria from New York. And Jenna from Lone Tree. Where's that? Chaya from Amsterdam. Roch from Tucson. Shani from Brisbane. Manuel from Brazil. Joatha from Brazil. Julie from Florida. Danish from Philly. Isn't that addiction, Susan is asking? The complete rasha. It's an addiction to self. And from there, we'll rise to ultimate substance. You know, um, that addiction begins that I'm self-serving, and that my self-serving is what life's all about. Because then from there, it'll just lead to absolutely. Jordan from Montreal. Hey, Jordan. Thank you for joining. How's the baby? Dawn. Thank you. Ahmed. Thank you for joining. Elaine and Katie from Texas. Susan. Nathan. All right, folks. Sharing is caring. Please share the author of his teachings with others. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day, a good Erev Shabbos, and a wonderful Shabbos Chazak. We finished the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis, and you should have a wonderful Shabbos.